again.
Hello, Patrick.
I don't feel... And you, all three. Oh, really, it's great to be back.
It is, yeah. Can you believe it? It's 50.
Hello, I'm Jan, and I am one of the students from the very first cohort of the Masters of Arts degree with Social Studies running parallel with the CQSW in 1972 to 1974.
Certainly the thing I remember about the social work course was the initial interviews for it. We were all placed in a group setting and told one of you, or possibly none of you, will get onto this course. So that was panicking, but we did get onto the course and made some great friends.
When I first came to Brunel, it was 1972, and I believe it was the first intake of students. I was one of 3 social work teachers on the course.
What brought me to social work is the passionate desire to make a difference to people's lives who otherwise wouldn't be able to make a difference for themselves.
What brought me into social work? When I was at university, I was gradually becoming more and more, I suppose, left-wing and very much aware of poverty. The first job that I got was in a children's home as an assistant house mother. Actually, it was teenage girls, and I was completely out of my depth because they came from such totally different backgrounds from me. So I thought I would leave. And then somebody said, oh, why don't you just have a go in working in the office, in the social services office. So I did that, and I found that much more interesting and much easier in a way than working in a children's home. So I applied for this course and found it extremely interesting, and that I could somehow help people in a rather vague kind of way.
There were lots of fun times. We went to the villages, had a drink, we came back to the student union, there was dancing. We loved music, there were bands, you know, great. It was good fun. We were students and we enjoyed ourselves, as students should do.
The group was quite mixed, diverse, and at the time I had a VW camper van, which was great, and we used to pile in it and head off down to the seaside, to Brighton for the day, spend the day just chilling out and having fun.
Of course, when we graduated, there was a time of tremendous social change. The political situation was very volatile. We had miners' strikes, we had electricity strikes, we had 3-day weeks because there wasn't enough coal to run the electricity turbines. So it was really a period of turmoil and change, and we had to actually go out as social workers to work with families who really were on the poverty line and were actually had no income coming in because there were massive strikes everywhere.
It took me a long time to realize that my motivation for becoming a social worker, many years later, I became aware what were unconscious reasons, I guess, for my connection with people in serious difficulty, which was that although I'd had a very privileged middle-class English background, I'd in fact missed out in some respects on connection with within my own family, emotionally disconnected parents, and being sent away myself to board at a boarding school many miles away from home at the age of 10. And I'm in the recent literature, of course, has been prolific about this subject, and I find myself in total sympathy with those who are now criticizing the practice of early boarding for children. But I'm sure this is what helped me to feel identified with children in care, with people who had that kind of experience.
I came into social work, I think primarily because of my family experiences. I grew up in rural southern Ontario. My mother was one of 8, and I was the eldest of 27 first cousins, and they all lived nearby, and so I had a lot of childcare duties and loved working with children. And then I went to a counsellor in summer camp, working with deprived children, and just all from then on I thought, no, I do want to do some work with children and families. And also I think I had quite an overdeveloped sense of social justice, things not being fair for some people, who are more disadvantaged than we were.
I absolutely loved my time at Brunel, mainly because being amongst the youngest of our cohort, there were much more widely experienced students with us who were older, who had been all over the place, and we learned as much from them as we did from the two pioneering women that actually led the course.
I think the thing that struck me about the course, looking back now, is that it was a very therapeutic base, that many people, after they finished the course, went on to be therapists. And for some of us, that was a challenge, because actually, if you're just looking at the interventions as casework, then there is a danger that that's the responsibility of the individual, rather than it being something in society that needs to change. And I don't think there was enough of a probe around that for us. There's no good going into a family and saying, the children are dirty, they always come up to school in dirty clothes. If they don't have a washing machine, for goodness sakes, let's look at the practical things that need to be put in first of all, before we look at the other things that might be impeding the care that family is given.
I was one of those rather privileged people who found themselves at Cambridge during the early 60s, and it was a time of great idealism, and I think it was partly that sort of sense of idealism which led me to make the choice of going on to train as a social worker after Cambridge.
I just relished being here and going to the Tavistock Centre for lectures. Well, we used to go there for counselling sessions, therapy sessions, not therapy for ourselves, but learning about the different therapeutic models. As a part of the course, we had 2 placements, and the one was being a social worker in what was Harrow's Social Services Department, because of course we were generic then. That was fascinating because I shadowed a social worker. The second placement was a residential, and it was the Richmond Fellowship, and that was again fascinating. I had to sleep in as well, and that was quite good training for when I actually then was warranted under the Mental Health Act, because we used to have to go and sleep in a designated place, waiting for a call to go and assess somebody to possibly be sectioned.
Highlight of my career would be coming back from work after a day's work and thinking, I have made a difference today. And the lowlights would be the opposite. Coming back and thinking, I'm not sure I've made any difference, perhaps I've made it worse. But you have to keep on believing that you can make a difference.
I came into social work and was passionate about becoming a social worker because I have a strong sense of justice and what is fair. And given that I was growing up in this massively changing society, I knew that I needed to be there to represent people who were not able to represent themselves.
If I were talking to people today, young people, about coming into social work, I would say yes, but be prepared for the challenges, be prepared for the highs and the lows, carry on believing that you can make a difference, and be resilient, really. That's the important thing. Don't give up.
The advice I would give anybody thinking about going into social work is to be prepared for the unexpected and just be clear about what you are aiming towards. People's behaviour is unpredictable and none of us know what's going to happen. We work within a framework and hope that whatever difference we can make is going to impact positively on the person, the family, whoever it is we're working with. It's going to be hard work, but very rewarding at the same time, and also times when it's going to make you cry, actually, which it has with me. But you can't give up.
Some of what we were trying to do on the course was to identify the common principles of social work and what united us as social workers.
I think that was really important, that we learned from each other as well in terms of our individual experiences and what we brought to the course and supported each other.
But I think one of the reasons why we remained friendly with each other, because we just had so many parties actually.
We did.